All right, welcome back to ABA exam review and our continuation of our sixth RBT practice exam, where we're going through the next set of questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials, including our combo pack and practice exams. As always, when you pass, please let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. Let's get going. 63. Cindy gets home from her work every day before her husband and takes on the role of feeding their son dinner. Right at 6 p.m., she starts to pull out vegetables from the fridge. When the son sees this, he attempts to run and hide, either in his room or outside. How might you explain the son's behavior? So, in a behavior question, the first thing you always ask yourself is whose behavior am I looking at? In this case, we're looking at the son. And what is the son doing? The son is attempting to run and hide either in the room or outside. So that's his behavior. Now ask yourself, what is the antecedent to that behavior? Well, the antecedent is his mom pulling out the vegetables from the fridge. So the antecedent is mom pulls out vegetables. The behavior is son attempts to run and hide. We are looking for the typical consequence. What does the son accomplish by running and hiding? A, the behavior has been positively reinforced in the past. Now, we don't know exactly what the consequence is, so it's asking us to speculate. The key here is the son is running and hiding. What is he trying to do? Well, he's trying to escape, right? He's running and hiding. He wants to escape and avoid. Escape avoidance is tied to what consequence? Negative reinforcement. So it's unlikely his behavior has been positively reinforced in the past. What's much more likely is every time he runs and hides, he gets to escape the vegetables. So the threat of the vegetables are removed. He's been negatively reinforced in the past. Why would you not pick punishment? Why would it not be positive or negative punishment? Well, because the behavior is maintaining. That's what he does when he sees the vegetables. He runs and hides. If the behavior was punished, he'd be doing something other than running and hiding when he saw the vegetables. But he's not. He accomplishes running, hiding, escaping, avoiding the vegetables. And as we just covered, escape avoidance leads to negative reinforcement. Always remember that negative reinforcement is tied to escape avoidance. 64. You're out working with the client one day when the client's dad asks if you can train him on the token economy that is currently in place. You've been using this token economy with success for 6 months now. Should you provide the training? All right, so you are out in the field and the client's dad says, can you train me on the token economy that's in place? You've been using the token economy for 6 months now. You're proficient. You're competent. But should you provide the training? Well, ask yourself, what is the primary role of the RBT, the technician, your role? Your role is implementation. Now, you can assist in assessments. You can assist in parent training. You can even do parent training on your own sometimes. But what do you first need to do before you do solo parent training, before you go ahead and do parent training by yourself? What should you do first? So the question is asking, should you provide the training? A, yes, inform your supervisor you'll be conducting the training and then proceed with the training. Well, that's not necessarily the approach. You don't inform your supervisor you're doing the training. You just inform them the client would like training, and then you can say, I'm comfortable giving it, or they might tell you to go ahead and do it, or they might say, I'm going to do it. Either way, first step is informing the supervisor. B, no behavior technician should not perform parent training. Well, not necessarily the case. You don't perform parent training without permission. Only given permission should you perform parent training. C, yes, as long as you're competent and have permission to conduct the training. Good, right? If you're competent, which you should be, 6 months with success, and you have permission, so you've reached out to your supervisor, then you can go ahead and try and conduct the training. That is the proper chain of command. And then D, no, there is no reason for the dad to know how to use his token economy outside of session. Well, we know that's just not true. We always want our parents as involved as possible. The more involved the parents, the better off for the client. So, question is, should you provide the training? Answer is yes, as long as you are competent and have permission to conduct the training. 65. Isaac earns 5-minute breaks after answering 5 questions correctly while sitting at the table. To help with Isaac's transitions, the behavior technician puts 3 M&Ms on the table that Isaac gets to eat if he transitions within 15 seconds of his timer going off. If he does not transition within 15 seconds, he loses the M&Ms. What does this most resemble? what is occurring in this scenario? We're looking at a question asking about intervention or consequence. What are we trying to do here? What does this resemble? So we know Isaac earns a 5-minute break after 5 questions. To help with transitions, the behavior technician puts 3 M&Ms on the table that Isaac gets to eat if he transitions within 15 seconds. So those M&Ms are his to lose, right? He has the M&Ms, just get back to the table in a timely manner. If he doesn't, he loses those M&Ms. So that reinforcer is removed. When we take away a reinforcement or a reinforcer contingent on behavior, what do we call that? A, positive punishment. Well, it's not positive punishment. And why? Because positive says adding. We're adding something. Positive means we've added something. In this case, we're going to take away those M&Ms. B, negative reinforcement. Well, taking away the M&Ms, if he doesn't transition within 15 seconds, we're attempting to decrease that behavior. We're attempting punishment. We're not trying to negatively reinforce him, so this does not resemble negative reinforcement. What about C, response cost? Yes, and what is response cost? Response cost is exactly what's going on here, more or less. An earned reinforcer, a potential reinforcer, a reinforcer that the client has, those M&Ms are Isaac's to lose, right? He all he has to do is transition. If he doesn't, we take those away. That's what a response cost is. Removing a reinforcer contingent on behavior. And then D, fading reinforcement. Well, we're not fading the reinforcement. We're taking it away. We're removing access to the reinforcement. Fading reinforcement is when you've already got a schedule in place and you increase the response requirement. It's not what we're doing here. We are taking away access to the reinforcer contingent on behavior. So it's negative punishment or response cost. 66. Adeline begins taking a gymnastics class. She learns how to do a forward roll at the first few classes. After a couple of weeks, Adeline can do a cartwheel, a back roll, and a handstand class, even though no one taught her how. What is Adeline's behavior most closely demonstrating? So whose behavior? Start there. Adeline's. What is Adeline's behavior demonstrating? So we know she's taking gym. She does a forward roll. She learns to do a forward roll the first few classes. Then after a couple of weeks, she's doing cartwheels, back rolls, and handstands. What has she done? Well, she's starting to demonstrate these new novel responses in the presence of classes and other places. So, is that stimulus generalization? Well, in stimulus generalization, we have a single response. We have one response, right? That's occurring across multiple stimuli. In this case, how many responses do we have? Well, we have the forward roll, which was taught, and then we have a cartwheel, a back roll, a handstand. We've got all these different responses occurring in the presence of either the class or maybe the house, right? So she's generalizing these responses in the presence of these stimuli. Response generalization is when we have a initial response, and then these new novel responses start to appear. Adeline is generalizing these responses. Remember, always ask yourself, how many responses am I dealing with? How many stimuli? If I've got multiple responses in a single stimuli, which is the class, it's response generalization. If I've got multiple stimuli in a single response, it's more than likely stimulus generalization. It can't be maintenance because these were untaught. It's very important. And it's not overgeneralization because it doesn't seem that it's inappropriate where she's engaging in this behavior. Adeline's behavior most closely resembles or demonstrates response generalization. 67, a replacement behavior in a differential reinforcement procedure should preferably be functionally equivalent to the target behavior for change. What do we mean by functionally equivalent? All right, so basically a definition question. What do we mean by functionally equivalent? What does that mean? Functionally equivalent. Well, functionally equivalent is exactly what it sounds like. The behavior that we're replacing the old behavior with needs to meet the same function. The functions are equal. So, what do we mean by functionally equivalent? A, the behaviors have similar form. Form is in reference to topography. We're not worried about form, we're worried about the function. The functions need to be equal. So B, the behaviors occur for the same reason. Yes, that's what we're looking for. We want our behaviors to occur for the same reason. We want our behaviors to meet the same functions. See, the behaviors have the same antecedents. Well, they might. If we're replacing the behavior, there's a chance that they have the same antecedent, a good chance, but that's not what we mean by functionally equivalent. What we mean by functionally equivalent is that the behaviors are occurring for the same reason. They're meeting the same function. And then D, the behaviors are similar in intensity. Intensity is also known as magnitude. So remember, we have topography, the form, magnitude, the intensity, and then the function, the reason the behavior occurred. So what do we mean by functionally equivalent? Well, B, the behaviors occur for the same reason. 68, your client often elopes from his mother while at the grocery store. You want to determine how often this behavior happens whenever the client is in a public space. You sit down with the client's mother and ask her what usually occurs before and after the behavior and how she responds. What type of data are you taking? So data collection question, think indirect data, think direct data, and what those might look like. In this case, client elopes from his mother. You want to determine how often this behavior happens in a public space. So you sit down with the client's mom and ask her what usually occurs before and after the behavior. So you're asking her about antecedents and consequences. But A, direct ABC data, are you directly taking this data? No, because you're not directly observing the client. You're going to the client's mom and asking her opinion about what occurs before and after. So this is not direct data. So B, frequency data, it can't be frequency because frequency is continuously measured directly, which you're not doing. C, interval data. Well, interval data could be discontinuous, but even then, you need to be directly measuring the client, which you're not doing. So what you're really doing is taking indirect data by talking with the mother and getting her anecdotal information about what occurs before and after the behavior. So you're getting indirect ABC data more or less by talking with the mom and asking her what happens before and after your son, your client, elopes from the mother at the grocery store. And 69, ideally you want to fade reinforcement in the skill acquisition plan to the point that blank. So talking fade reinforcement. You want to fade reinforcement and a skill acquisition plan to the point that what? Why do we fade reinforcement in a skill acquisition plan? Well, we fade reinforcement to encourage maintenance and generalization, right? Because we don't want to be the ones always giving out the reinforcement for skills because that's unrealistic. We want to fade reinforcement in the plan to the point where what happens? A, you're only using a variable ratio schedule. Well, variable ratios are the strongest of our basic schedules, but we don't want to stop there. We want to get to the point where we don't have to deliver reinforcement. Why? So B, the client is no longer engaging in any maladaptive behaviors. We'll never be perfect. Nobody's ever going to be perfect. The goal should never be to eliminate behavior entirely because you'll never hit that goal. It's just not possible. C, the client is contacting natural reinforcement. Yes, we want to fade reinforcement. Ideally, remember, ideally to the point where the client is contacting natural reinforcement, meaning not reinforcement delivered by me or you, but from the environment. And then D, you're using an interval schedule. Like a variable ratio schedule, you can fade to an interval schedule, but ideally, you want to get to the point where you don't have to deliver the reinforcement. The client is just contacting natural reinforcement from the environment. Thanks for watching. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Let us know when you pass, work hard, study hard. See you soon.